Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the CEO of Hemlane. How you doing, Dana?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So we spent round one of our discussion today talking about the genesis, the beginning, the early stages, the hard choices, being a female entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley, which was awesome. Now I get to talk about the future. You've done amazing things with Hemlanes. You're solving real needs. My following loves what you're doing at Hemlane. You've added stuff to it. My course, which is great. I want to know where you're taking this thing because there's the future is bright. I actually think recessions are where great companies get stronger as competition and bad decisions go to zero. So where are you taking this thing from a product, from a vision, from a market need? Where's this thing going?
Yeah, I think the vision and the product in the future is actually the much easier part than initially getting off the ground.
Yeah.
Sort of like with real estate investing, your first couple of homes are difficult. You learn a lot and then you build your process and your playbook with it. And you learn a lot, right, about your customer, who's tenants, your markets, and all of that. So with Hemlane, it's actually really exciting. We're in property management and a hybrid model. So you think you have kind of two options: DIY management and then full service property management. And you're trying to say, which one should I choose? Hemlane is the best of both worlds. You still have the control and transparency in an app on a platform, but you also can pick and choose and get 24/7 repair coordination and leasing agents. When we think about the future of Hemlane, there's a couple of different things that we think about. One is the concept of asset management, making it, I mean, you have these properties, but there's still certain things where it's like, I'm still, from a mortgage perspective, an insurance perspective, setting up my entities, I'm still having to think and educate myself on how to do that. How do you have technology help play a role based on who you are? So very personalized, who you are, Michael, that helping decide what you should be doing and how to make that possible. And is now the best time to do it? Is it when you get 2 or 3 more properties? And then on the from the perspective of just making it where you can purchase more rental properties. A lot of people talk about the affordability gap and the crisis where, you know, you have the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. And when you think about it, giving people homes and making rentals something where there's not a question, people don't go into like long-term rentals. People don't go into Airbnb and take it off the rental market, but they keep it there. It's so easy. It's such a delightful experience to have tenants for you, as well as for the tenants, they're long-term there. I think that part of it is really empowering and exciting for our users. So that's one thing, is the asset management. The other thing I would say about it is, for a real estate investor, you have this capital that you've put into an asset, and you could do anything with that. You could put it into stocks, you could put it into bonds. That's much more passive, and you don't have the control, and you don't have the same tax advantages. But with it, always allowing investors to really understand their numbers and how are they doing compared to others. So basically gamifying it, where you know how you're doing and you can very quickly pick up more properties and sell properties on the platform because you know how well you're doing or what you could do to optimize your portfolio. And so in the real estate world, that's kind of the vision and future for it on rentals. Now, if you think of like long term, you know, Amazon started with books and now is like where everyone buys everything. And so I do think actually just homes in general, home technology, your own home management of your own personal home, actually getting into that space as well is really fascinating to us because no one's done it. Yeah. Or done it well, and having basically a centralized place where you can yourself have a dashboard to manage your assets, your physical assets, your real estate across the nation. You know, right now we focus on residential. We have quite a few commercial, self-storage, stuff like that on the platform. We'd like to also do some things to enhance those to make it even more specific and custom built for those types of asset classes. But yeah, we're excited about it. It almost seems easier to do that, the vision and future, than it was to get off the ground now that we're there and we know what we know.
Yeah, I think I don't remember what the exact are, but apparently it's like 90 or 95 or 98% of the fuel required to get the rocket to outer space is getting it off the ground, right? Just the first
Oh, I
foot or
love.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. I have to go look it up, but I'll say 98%, whatever it is, something like that. It's probably the same with a startup, right? Getting that initial momentum, and then it just kind of it's easier from there. Um, the other thing I think that's very interesting, having been through multiple recessions, including a .com crash, that I think is in front of you is, I don't know what you want to call it, technology consolidation, app consolidation. I think there are going to be some companies that aren't well financed
Yeah.
and will trade for probably pennies and probably even get terms so it doesn't cost cash a year from now, right? There's the companies that don't have a 4-year runway and they're losing money faster and faster every month. There might be some tuck-in acquisitions. There might be some ways to, look at that. So I know you probably haven't looked at that yet, but it wouldn't shock me if that came across your radar maybe in 2024.
Yeah, we are looking at actually one acquisition right now. So it's already starting.
Wow.
It's crazy with how valuations have been cut in half. Some at 90% in the extreme cases.
Yeah.
It's actually really interesting to see what's happened, and I think it's really good. I mean, you went through the .com. I think it's a really good reset for people to say what's valuable, what do people value, and making sure your numbers make sense. It's just like you said, of doing the work. At Hemlane, it's great. We're recruiting right now, and we're finding this fantastic talent.
Yep.
And we're recruiting and growing because we know our numbers, and we know that we're in a much better position than a lot of others in our space that have been a little bit more, I'd say they haven't really focused on the numbers and made sure that everything made sense and crossed their T's and dotted their I's.
Yeah, no question. And again, my experience in the .com crash, we were starting our road show to go public and 9/11 occurred. And it was like 4 months later, we laid off half the company.
Wow.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and then I think 4 or maybe it was 5 months after that, we were sold for pennies. Right. So if I were to run the clock, I was looking at being worth tens of millions of dollars and then suddenly having to cut half the staff and then suddenly being sold for pennies. That was not a very good journey, but it's occurring again, just at in a different rate, different set of folks. So.
Yeah. And Michael, from our last episode, we spoke about what's the right time for someone to start a company or dive into real estate or whatever it may be. And you might find that this is a defining moment. Like my defining moment was going 2 paths after graduation. You might find personally someone listening to this that now is your path, right? Now is the time you find that your company is not, your stock isn't worth as much, and you might as well go dive into the deep end and start your company. And great companies were started. PayPal was started right during the .com. So
Uber, yeah,
fantastic companies are started during then. And I believe it's because when you don't have as much cash, you actually become more creative. And creativity helps drive innovation.
I believe recessions are the time true wealth is made. It's been easy the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I think, who said this? Let me just think for a second. I think it was Elon Musk. He said the last 2 years, money has rained down on fools and we need to reset. And that's what's going to happen. And I think great companies are started in recession. So this could be your time, right? Your RSUs are not worth what they used to be, or staring at a smaller nut, more walk away money. The golden handcuffs have turned to brass. Might be time to go.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool, Dana. Well, where can people find your 30-day trial? Because you give away amazing stuff. My students love what you were doing. Where can they find the trial?
Yeah, if you're interested in property management or just testing it out, even if you don't have your first rental property, www.hemlane, which is HEMLANE.com. And just mention one rental at a time, because you do get 20% off your first year.
Yeah, I strongly recommend. A lot of you are just getting started, right? You're doing the work for the next 90 days or so. A lot of you always ask me, what else can I do? I would go get the 30-day trial and pretend to be a landlord, right? Even if you haven't bought a property yet, go pretend to be a landlord, recruit a couple of friends, go have fun with the trial. If you're in my course, there's videos. If you're not in the course, Dana was gracious enough to create a PDF. It's in the free course. Go get it. Go pretend to be a landlord. This is the time. So Dana, thank you very much for all you do.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.